All right, so get started. Hey, everybody, welcome back. So this is part of our Client Spotlight series, and I'm here with Jacqueline and Minna from the Product Boss. We've been working together for almost about a year now, and you guys have had some pretty amazing growth in your business so far, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, the most growth ever.
ever in the whole world. As you all get to know us, we like to laugh and talk business.
But not exaggerating. We've grown a lot.
Yeah. I mean, did that, when you really look back on your numbers from last year, because we're recording this in the beginning of 2022, like, did that kind of shock you when you looked at how much your business had actually grown?
I think, we were shocked in 2020 on our own because in 2020, we set our first like 7-figure goal and it was like January. Yeah, we're going to hit $1 million this year. And then March, we're never going to hit $1 million this
Yeah,
year.
we're like, we'll let that go. It's fine. The world is in shutdown.
Let's just survive this pandemic, right? That was sort of what we did, but we were all, we ended up in 10 months hitting our goal in 2020, which we were blown away by. We were like, well, I don't know how I did it, but we just showed up literally every day and supported our community. And then we met you, funny enough, on Clubhouse. Remember that?
Oh my gosh, that was like
Clubhouse. What?
Yeah, I know. What was that? What was that?
The hours we would spend, which I will tell you, some of the best connections I've made. And I mean, we were locked in our houses, so it really did its job in terms of like connection. But it was sort of like we wanted to double our revenue from 2020. And we're like, we're talking millions, we're not talking like, let's go from, 100,000 to 150 or 100,000, 200,000 even like, can you even do it? And I think, and we did. And I think that when we met you, you made it, you kind of like streamlined it a bit easier for us. And like, and we doubled down on the things that were working and improved those. So then like, it was, the revenue came from things we were already doing versus having to like add on and add on and add on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that when we first hired you, we knew we wanted help with marketing, but I think that it ended up being something different than what we had intended. Like when we hired you on, I was thinking it would help us to market in a better way. And it kind of did in a roundabout way. I think the thing that you've helped with us with the most is, well, first, we were already really great with messaging. I think that that's something that Jacqueline and I do really well because there's two of us. We bounce off of each other. We fill the gaps. We send out a message that's really great. The thing with you that you did really well is you helped us figure out more about our customer. Like you named them certain things. You talked about escape and arrival. Like we were really able to like attract the right people at a higher ticket value and build out things against these people that became more crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that wasn't something we intended in the first place, but ended up being like this special thing that developed from that. It was hard, don't get me wrong. But it happened and it really helped.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely moments where I like leave our meetings and I'm like, oh God, did I push them too hard? I don't know.
I mean, you're challenging us for sure, but it's uncomfortable growing. So, like I said, it was really beneficial, but since there's two of us too, it's like, it was a process.
I just wanted to add on to that really fast. Like what Minna said was like, people think marketing and like, how can I get better on social media? And it's like, okay, hold on. And it's almost like, and we're a top marketing podcast. We're like top 10 marketing podcast. So we know how to market.
Yeah.
But the thing that I feel like we got from you almost was like, is it an MBA in marketing? Like, it was more refined. It was a refined marketing perspective. So it was like really doing work around customers and not like a general customer avatar that people teach, but rather like, this is your product, this is your course, your program. And then saying, okay, who is this person? What is their struggle? So that escape and arrival, to be honest, which we worked on with you, I reference for all the things. And Minna's like, stop doing reels, but I'm trying to get reels to work. Okay. Cause like the algorithm changed, but a couple of my reels, cause reels have really,
and if you're
been
listening to this, not everybody has to do reels. Okay. It's fine.
I actually really like your reels. I like every single one of them.
Before somebody's
I'm a
like
frequent commenter.
Let's do some reels.
I really appreciate them.
But reels took a dip. Like we have a reel that went viral and we had 15 million views. Another one at like 2 million views, like when reels first came out. And then this, the last few however many months, like reels took a dip where it was like the struggle was real. We have 43,000 followers and we would get like 1,000 views. We're like, what are we doing with our lives? But then recently, as we're in pre-launch to one of our signature course, our flagship program, I was like, I'm going to go back to the escape and arrival and just pick tiny things with these trending reels and see if they work. And they did. And I know this isn't like a huge amount of numbers, but like from going to like 1,000 views to 4,000 to 7,000, one of them has 12,000. I was like, okay, all right, I'm getting the reels machine to work again. Cause otherwise what's the point? So I just wanted to bring that up, that it's like, it does help across the board in our messaging and also just little micro points on, social.
Yeah, I think I use it in a different way. So I have not been doing reels, everybody. So calm down. It's okay if you don't want to do them. But the escape and arrival and the naming our avatars, we have 2 avatars right now.
Are you going to say them out loud? I don't know if you should say them.
No, I'm not going to say them.
Yeah.
But we've been hiring like crazy. It's been one of the hardest parts that we've had to do is hire very quickly because we've been growing very quickly. And honestly, we aren't hiring fast enough. But when we brought on, for example, a copywriter, a very expensive copywriter, and you have to onboard them in order for them to sell. So she works on like our sales copy. So I've been using the escape and arrival and the names of our avatars to explain to her, these are the people we're selling to. And it's been like a shortcut. Like I explained to her, this is their personality. These are their struggles. This is a thorn in the side. This is what keeps them up at night, that sort of thing. And then it's helped her to write better copy and us to hire the right people that understand our voice and messaging. So that's another way is that I've been using it, outside of front facing social.
One thing feels a little more significant than the other. I'm just going to say.
No, one's front facing and one is hiring on the team. So,
everybody who's listening, just go to the Product Boss Instagram and like all of Jacqueline's reels, please.
Thank you.
The algorithm is fixed.
Please watch them, share them, like them.
But part of the reason I lean in because I need to go through processes to understand to teach. And so part of it is like what I test things and then I'm able to teach our students and say like, hey, if you do 2 a day or you do this, and like, if I can get the results from like a slow start, then can I get them the results too? So, but anyways, let's move on from the reels conversation.
They are really good. And I mean, the truth is that you're good at a lot. You've done so much well. You have incredibly strong team members who you do have in place. And I know when you were launching your highest ticket offer, which a lot of people who have an audience that is more at that entry level point, they kind of struggle with like, do I even have a high ticket offer in my ascension? Like, can I even add one on? Would my audience be able to tolerate that? And that's been kind of a journey for you as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could call it that, a journey.
Behind the scenes, if you all only
it's
knew.
like a grueling journey.
Very successful one.
Think
I'll
Oregon
say.
Trail,
This is us, not Laura. But
yeah, this is us. Yeah.
Before we were the Product Boss, we started, and I don't know if you even know this, Laura, but like I'm in fashion. I was a fashion consultant for, 10.5 years before I met Minna. And I would always speak on stages. And like, I finally learned to sell something at the end. And I called up Minna and I was like, we had never met before. And I was like, do you want to come out to this trade show I'm speaking at, do a panel? You're the Amazon expert. And we talk about multiple streams of revenue for this point. We're talking to fashion designers. And she's like, sure, why not? And then I was like, and should we sell something at the end? Cause I had just been introduced to the idea of a mastermind. And she's like, sure, why not? This is why I love her so much. We're like, sure, can it make money? Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we sold at the end of this panel, we had this whole printout and Minna designed the logo and it was multi-stream machine, the mastermind. It was a 3-month mastermind. We sold it right then and there in the hallways of the California Market Center.
Yeah. Legit, like imagine old school in a hotel room, but this was at a trade show conference. Meet us out in the hallway if you're interested. It was literally like that because the room was being taken over by some other speaker.
We didn't have a business. Like we had, I don't even remember how we invoiced people, but we like got their email address and locked them in.
I'm waiting for the part where you opened up the trunk of the car.
Oh yeah.
I
had the coat with the watches.
You had the coat with the Fendis that went with the mastermind purchase.
But no, but like, it was, we were selling it, but we weren't a business. We both had our own businesses, but we were like, let's try this together. And we got, I think it was like 9 or 10 people together. Mm-hmm. They were incredible. I mean, one of them was like the costume designer for Dancing with the Stars. So, incredible people. We did it. And we were like, this is the first time we worked together. So we started before we even called the Product Boss, before we even had a podcast, we started masterminds, and then we continued that. So that was our only revenue driver for the first 2.5 years of our business. Was
that was the only revenue driver, but we also ended up creating a podcast. So we had a funnel in at that point, and then we ended up having revenue, and that's how we drove people instead of the trade show in the hallway sort of technique.
Right. And we got a website. Like we took that step.
$30. We started on $30. That's how easy it is to start a service-based business, everybody.
Oh God, I hate that. And your entire life. So I think, so where I'm trying to get to is like, we ran our business off of masterminds and small group masterminds. So like 8 to 10 people, a few $1,000s each, 12 weeks, eventually moved to 6 weeks. We were always afraid of a year. It was always very scary to sell a year. And then, we came out with the course, and we just did not understand how to scale our mastermind. And we didn't charge that much for a mastermind. I mean, you're in a mastermind, we're in a masterminds, like there are tens of thousands of dollars at the levels that we're at. And we were like, okay, like it's hard to get product entrepreneurs to pay and understand a 12-month commitment and to pay anything, because there's also not a lot to compare to. So I think with working with you, we brought that as a struggle for us. We were like, we have all these different mastermind groups, but they take out 2 hours a day on multiple days. And so all of our hours were kind of built into coaching smaller groups. And you said, well, can we make this a bigger group? Like, can your mastermind idea and principle be built into like this bigger scalable type product? Obviously can't scale past a certain amount of people. And can we book them for a lot of money? Not a lot. Actually, we're still pretty low priced, but book them for, money, and then a year. And we didn't believe it. And I'll tell you, that was one of the first projects we worked on with you. And it was a struggle because there's 2 CEOs, 2 different timelines. We both live in 2 different places. I live in New Jersey. Minna lives in Iowa. But we did it. We got 35 people the first round. We just booked another 22. So we're like 56. And this is in the first 10 months of the program.
Yeah. It's a huge win.
Yeah.
You also did a really nice job nurturing people from your record launch in the fall and segmenting them and identifying who in your audience could be an awesome fit for your mastermind. I think you did an incredible job at that.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that 2021, whatever year it was last year, 2021, I think the thing with working with you and then we had really like high dollar investments that we made as well, like into branding and things like that. We really wanted to position ourselves in a different way, and I think that you really helped us with that of even positioning our offer in a different way and pulling out the people that could afford us and work with us, and that we were more up leveled as well, so it took a while to do that. But it's been worth it. And we're seeing us impact these bigger businesses too, which has been incredible. So, but it was a process. Like we had to basically change everything, change is hard. And we had to change it into a bigger group. We had to, you had to chip away at our mindset of that. A mastermind is more about people coming together versus a curriculum, for example. Just a lot of different things that it took a process of chipping away at, that now we've tested it, we've chipped away at it. We're getting to a point where we're like, okay, now we get it. And now we're able to scale it more. And I think that that's really helped, is just now that we're kind of like more into it, the months, now it's much more fun than being at the beginning of the change.
She said Oregon Trail to start. Where are we at now?
Yeah. Right. Now we're, I don't know, like,
Appalachian.
Yeah. Appalachian. Right.
And just to like talk about that really fast, I think it was like the belief that like it couldn't necessarily happen. Like, and what's funny, Laura, and I haven't told you this yet, but sometimes like, oh yeah, Laura was right. Like, oh, maybe we should have like actually not offered as much, because the value, and now that we've seen this come together, these like 56 people, and also Minna and I are each paying $30,000 each to be in the same mastermind. So we have like a
different mastermind of our own that we're in.
We have like a $60,000 investment somewhere else, where like it is the 15th and we haven't been onboarded. There is no
communication. But before we go into that mindset, I think we had to do it a certain way. because we
Right.
have to tip our or dip kind of like the toes of our community into it too. So we're kind of like gradually changing and moving things along. But I think the thing that helps, especially with us having two CEOs, and I think that all of you, even as one solopreneur being in your business, is that you might see too, is that because you're in it every day, it's hard to see all the blind spots or to feel differently than you have simply because you're in it. And that means even if you're two people, even though there's two people, myself and Jacqueline, we're vastly different, but we're still have our own thoughts because we're so in it. And it's hard to see outside of your business if you're in it every day. You think certain things, you do certain things, and it's
Whereas
like,
I'm saying like we've over
mhm,
delivered on this one. Like
yeah.
it's definitely a very built out, not over delivered. It's a very good program at a very
Mhm.
good price. And but seeing sort of working with you, and you have your experience and your toe into other people's businesses, and like just it's the same way with us, how we can consult product people and coach product people. We see behind the scenes of so many businesses, and sometimes people get really stuck on, but this is the way and I can't see it another way. So hindsight's 2020, and I'm looking back and I'm like, yeah, like this the value is here, and so much so that we're like we give so much value even comparing to like what we're paying in other places. And so it's really an interesting thing, but like Minna said, we could only get here by going through
Having
it and
gone
then
through it,
see.
because
Yeah.
we had, it looks different even when we started. The offering of the mastermind is very different than when it began, even 10 months ago or whatever, or 6 months ago. I don't even know, it's a
What
blur.
year it is.
Yeah. It's like beginning of the Oregon Trail, whatever that was, so it looks different because we had to test it, I think, with our community. And then now it's become a baby or birth birthing of the mastermind between three people, us and,
Yeah.
our surrogate, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an honor to walk this path with you, because I know when you're on the inside too, I think especially as women, it's so easy to underestimate what we've built, what we're bringing to the table, who's in our audience. A lot of times people think that they don't have a certain type of customer in their audience, and that certain customer just isn't signing up for some of your top of the funnel offers, but they're still like hanging around. They still love what you have to say, right? And a lot of times when you have a large audience, that small segment that has a powerful buying ability in your company can be easily underestimated. I think
Mhm.
for both of you, one of the things I love about I love working with you for a lot of different reasons, but one of the primary reasons is how much you prioritize your home life, your being a mom, being a wife, and just knowing how important that is to you, and how important spaciousness and freedom and having space to be creative. I think for a lot of people who have a creative background, they crave that. And what have you kind of learned about yourself in the last year when it comes to how that fits into your business? I'm kind of curious how you're going to answer this.
Um, it's an evolving thing, I think. I think that Jacqueline and I have put in so much into this business that now we get to reap the rewards.
Yeah.
So, like looking back at it, there's been times I've been burnt out before. So that's one thing. And I've had partners before as well. So I know that if I don't reap the rewards, or I don't feel like the things that I really want are prioritized. Because at one point I dreamt of this, right? I dreamt to have, actually, I didn't even dream this big of the product boss, but at one time I dreamt that I would have a business, and we're talking about my other business, Little Labels, that I would be working with my husband at home on a business that was family owned. And, I think that I'm just like, I always knew that that was my priority. So it's really easy for me to go back to that of like, this is what I dreamt of. And now I want to live that life as well. Now I have the product boss, and it's opened up a whole set of different, that's why I said it's evolved, it's opened up a whole set of dreams and discovery and, like money and, thoughts and fulfillment that I never even knew I wanted. So I
Mhm.
think that I constantly go back to rediscovering what I want. And I think that I naturally do that. I've naturally done that my whole life. So building that in, especially like right now, my husband like bought me bar classes. It's like a Pilates, yoga thing. And I did it and I was really sore and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And I was like, but he bought me an 8-pack and I was like, I'm going to do it, follow through here. I'm going to do it. Because some things I don't love right away. So I'm going to do it. And then it just made me feel kind of good because I thought, this is kind of the thing that I wanted this year too was, I think of it as dating, right? Sometimes you don't know you want to be with that person forever, but it's different from dating because you're dating not what you're doing, you're dating yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I've been seeing it is like I'm rediscovering what I want now, me as this person. That's felt really, really good. So as sometimes people look at us and they think they have it all balanced and they really are prioritizing the things that they want. But it's a constant conversation from myself and Jacqueline, with me by myself, with Jacqueline by herself, with me, with my husband. And I think that that's what's really helped is that knowing that we have to revisit it constantly,
It's powerful.
Oregon Trail style.
Yeah, right. It's not easy, that's for sure. People don't love change.
Death match. No, for me, and the thing that I was most attracted to Minna about when I met her, because we met online, through like a podcaster and like a 6-figure CEO Facebook group. And what I liked about her is I had never been given there were no examples to me. I was in my, maybe we were in our 30s when we met, but like I started as an entrepreneur in my 20s. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Women were not prioritized in the family that I grew up in. And so, but my brain was always like, I'm going to make enough money to make the choices I want to make. And that was my mission. And even meeting Minna, that was my mission. And we, at that point, had our youngest were 2. And then now I had a business and I had 2 young kids, and then I was starting a second business, and I didn't understand it when you're an entrepreneur and you don't have children, you could work all hours, but I didn't understand the whole like balance or juggling and being home for dinner and mom guilt and all the things that came with it. So she was very much someone that helped me through that. But as we've grown this business, because we both still have our other businesses and this business has like skyrocketed, that's like where what Minna has also reminded me of. She's like, the reason we make this money is to have the freedom, like what lives we want to live, because it's really hard when you're a hustler to get out of hustle mode. And my hustling came from surviving. Like my hustling came from like, my only path to freedom is that I hustle. And that's kind of, where I was operating from. So now it's this idea of like, we talked about this morning on our podcast, but like buying back your time. And so we work this hard for what reason? And, we're 2 different people. I travel a lot because of like the way that my family lives on the other coast. Like we're 2 different people and we have to always coordinate our relationship, how we work, our different time zones, our own children, our own commitments to our kids. But it's getting easier. I think last year was hard because we were also in a pandemic, holed up with our children, homeschooling, we homeschooled, we got them back out. And so it was just a weird time to grow so fast, but also your children were home with you. And so the fact that, and it didn't feel as balanced with our kids being home because it's like they were physically there and like they knew we were working all day instead of being at school. And then we got to be with them after school. So I think now that they're back in school and there's a little bit more balance, we are finding more balance. And then we're finding the space, like she said, to reflect on ourselves and now think, who are we and what do we want to do with this? Like these opportunities we've created for ourselves as well. So it's kind of getting that freedom back again. And then almost a reinvention of self and parenting and spouse and all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just about adding like more zeros
to
the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the things that I hope that I help you with, and I continue to help you with, is making the choices that are going to create that outcome. And I think, as you've mentioned before, and I think everybody who's listening has probably fallen into this trap of your condition to grow your business a certain way because it's gotten you to where you are, right? Is that when you are in the scaling to 7-figure stage, in a lot of ways, that is just throwing a bunch of things at the wall, seeing what sticks. And there's a certain amount of like brute force that's required, I think, to get there, because you just have to kind of like slog through the proof of concept stage or the market validation stage for what it is that you're offering. And we're still thinking about what's missing in your ascension offer and your customer journey and like what pieces could really help your audience get better results faster. I mean, that's that's what we talked about this morning, right? But then also doing it in a way that honors the life you want to live. And I think that's what's kind of interesting, particularly about working with women, is that they tend to have like a higher level of consciousness when it comes to what it is, like creating a business that they're excited to show up for. And it's super easy. In fact, I would argue that it's more common than not to, at the multi-7-figure mark, create a business that you're not super excited to show up for, because there's so much more opportunity than you have time for, first of all. And there's so many more people who need your guidance and feedback and leadership, that it's kind of like being intentional to not get caught in the wave of overworking.
Yeah. And allowing, I think certain people, I think the further we get with myself and Jacqueline, the more people we get into our ecosystem. And I think that that's been really hard to navigate, of us only attracting people that we want in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've helped us with too, is just, like I said, you've helped us a lot with attracting knowing our customer more and everything. Even before this call, right? We were talking about tennis, and I actually love tennis. I grew up playing tennis, not grew up. I was in tennis in high school. And I remember this has always stuck with me when I was teaching my daughter how to play tennis. I remembered something my coach told me, and she said, it is a game of finesse and not strength. You don't have to be the strongest person. You don't have to brute force your way through it. You have to have finesse. And I think that that's the thing that you really help us with, is just, we're kind of like at the point now, we're kind of finessing our way through, we're past the hustle, we're past the brute force. And that's what I've really liked, is that now, like, this is something Jacqueline has taught me for sure. And I think we teach it back and forth to each other, is that we vocalize what we want and we ask for it and we have a conversation around it. And it has been hard as women, as living in separate places, as growing a company so big, hiring people in this company, everything, all the things. And so I think that that's been really helpful, is just understanding that it's just finessing what you want.
Yeah, I love that analogy. So anybody who listens knows I play tennis too. And it's so true, because it's where you place the ball is so much more important than how hard you hit it. Yep. Particularly as you get into the higher levels, because most people can hit that hard ball back, right? But if you put it in the exact right spot, then it doesn't take quite as much energy out of you, and it's much more likely to be a winner. So I love that analogy. That's awesome.
I love that tennis became our, I need to start playing now, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
But it is, I mean, it's so true. The finesse is definitely where we're at. It's that delicate touch to it on like how to make it perform better. So I'm excited to see what happens this year, in terms of like knowing the products that we have that are great, and it's that finesse around it.
Yeah.
And bringing in the right people.
It was funny because we were running the numbers this morning on some, just kind of hypothesizing what was possible. And I think something that felt very impossible all of a sudden was like, oh, like that's totally doable. If we just do these particular things that are probably our biggest opportunity and most likely to get us to where we need to be with the most leverage. So I want to leave the listeners with knowing, I think I know how awesome you are. I want them to know how awesome you are. What are some of the things that, with or without my help, you think you did really well this year? I want to celebrate that before we head out. And I can brag on you too. It's easier for me to start. I think
you can start.
I'll start. I think you've done an incredible job with paid traffic in a year that people have. Jacqueline's a lot of your genius in there. In a year that people were complaining about, not getting paid traffic to do what they want to do, and they're giving up on it, and they're blaming the algorithm all year long, where I'm like, that happened in March. Like, we're in September. It's probably time to move on. You got the messaging right, used a lot of our messaging exercises, and then layered on this incredible front end strategy to your launch, which was a workshop series that we brainstormed together and you really ran with. And then you had a record launch, and you had liquidating SLOs. I mean, you did so much well with paid traffic. And that's like one statement that like has so many layers. It has design layers. It has copy layers. I remember one time I took a screenshot and I sent it to you. I'm like, did this ad go out on purpose? And they're like, don't even show it to Minna. She hates it. It's so bad. But it was actually like one of your
we
best
were shooting
performing.
for ugly.
You were shooting for ugly and it worked, but like you tested so many creatives and you were just willing to stick that out. And I think you were greatly rewarded for it.
Thank you. And we say don't show to Minna because Minna's like she has a graphic design background. And listen, if anyone's like, why are my ads not working? It's bonkers. Like we have beautiful graphics. We've paid a lot of money for like a creative director and all this stuff. Those do not perform, but the like, I don't even know how to explain them, but the kind of like clanky, they feel clanky and janky. Those work really well. So we got to keep going. So don't judge us if you see our ads, but they work.
Clanky and janky. I know. I was
like, the photos, everything. Just don't look at the ads. Go to Instagram or something.
But even our Instagram, we've gotten more like normal and natural with. Yeah. I think they're refining I think for us, what we did really well is I think over the summer of last year, leading into our biggest launch, it kind of like clicked all of a sudden where we hired this copywriter who's a very expensive copywriter. But then all of a sudden, because we had the opportunity, we had built a business that could afford this. It created such clarity. And I think last year we found a lot of clarity, like, oh, this is who we're talking to. These are their pain points. Because before we spoke to it, but it was kind of, we're great at talking. We could talk all the time. I think talk. So it's like, we could talk to it, but we don't know what we're talking about specifically. But now that we're very clear on what their fears are, what their needs are, what their objections are. And again, you did help us with this, but we got really clear that it was so easy to sell into our workshops, into our challenge, refine like the webinars, get people into the mastermind. Like it just started to make more sense. And I think that felt like at one point it was kind of like blind luck. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, no, it's all finally coming together. And then we can like define the recipe instead of sort of like by, like just our natural abilities.
Yeah. I think last year was really difficult. So 2020, though that was when the pandemic hit, it was really easy. All Jacqueline and I had to do was show up. We had to do video, which is not my favorite, but at the same time, it was just showing up on video. We literally just bonded with our community. It felt hard because it was a pandemic, but easy because all we had to do was show up. And, I just did as many videos as I could possibly do in existence. And 2021 was so hard. I think that there was so many changes. I think the thing that we did really well was that we understood that we are still in the change, so we changed the entire mastermind. We changed the entire directory that we had. Personally, we had a lot of things happening. Our masterminders were really struggling because they were waiting for the pandemic to be over and it wasn't. And it was really hard for them to be in that constant uncertainty and change. It felt all very hard. And I think that, I don't know if I can pinpoint something that we did really well. We hired the copywriter, for example. We honed in on the messaging, but the emails didn't end up working out as well as we thought. So now we'll improve on that. So I think that that's one thing that we really are good at, is that we just change as often as we need to. And we kind of, we're okay with the fact that we have to fail a little bit to get to where we want. Now, not a lot of things have failed on the product boss side. I will tell you that. Like everything one of the people that we work with, she said that everything we touch turns to gold. We're really lucky in that we've been really successful at a lot of things, but it's because we've, put a lot of energy into things and change it quickly when we need to. It's like 2021 was constant triage. So it was very, very hard. But I think that we were really good at that. We came together as a team, even though it felt like sometimes our wheels were falling off, and we changed very quickly whatever we needed to do. And we stayed really unified in all of it. And I think that that's a big struggle for a lot of people, is staying unified through a traumatic year, Yep. And so I think that I'm really grateful and really proud of us that we came out of 2021. We grew out of it. I mean, exponentially, honestly, like it was crazy growth. And it was actually really hard.
Yeah.
I knocked on wood while you were saying certain things like
turn to gold.
I'm like, okay, knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, you have an amazing offer for a very clear person who needs your help. And that is, I mean, that's such an important part of the game of business. And I just think both of you, if I were to summarize what I just heard, it was you kept showing up.
Yeah.
You kept showing up even though it was hard. You kept showing up even though there was moments where, serving a large audience in 2021 was not easy for anybody. There's a lot of pain in the world. There's a lot of people who are showing up in a way that, can feel disrespectful because of what they're experiencing in their home, in their lives. And you just kept showing up, and kept elevating. What I saw you doing is you kept leveling up. Like you didn't just show up, you kept leveling up. You were like, okay, that's fine. Like that isn't working the way that we thought, but what is working, let's take the pieces that are working, carry it forward, leave behind the pieces that aren't working, which is really, really difficult when you have emotional and financial investments in some of the things that might not be working as well as you were hoping, right? But you kept just leveling yourself up. And I think you do that for each other. And then I think you're natural at that. And I think that'll serve you going into the next year. So part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to add just really fast. I think another thing, like, and I'm a Housewives fan, so I like to watch Housewives fight each other like the next one. But I will say that there's not a lot of modeling of women supporting women sometimes, or women partnerships that, where you see like things can get hard and they're not always pretty. In the way, when I say pretty, like in the way, like it's not always smooth sailing, like a marriage, it's not always smooth sailing, but, and life happens, right? We all have personal things, and both me and I had like pretty personal things that we didn't talk about publicly last year happen. But that we understood that we were in this marriage, ultimate life partnership together. And that we each had to go through our own thing. And that we would, like she said earlier, like we would bring it to each other and allow that space for the person to work through it. And I just hope that like we can model that for people, whether it's like in a friendship, whether it's colleagues, like with you, it's the idea of like the cattiness or the meanness or the like women don't get along or they have to be besties all the time, or, just like what we've seen out there as women in business. That it can be real and raw and messy and beautiful and growth and examples for others. And so that's something I think we went through because we had a lot of personal stuff happening and such tremendous growth in our business and our other businesses. And it was like, we had to go through that too, to then be able to handle whatever's coming next,
Yeah. And know how to reward ourselves. This is something we're learning too. We actually are going to Costa Rica for like a very expensive mastermind. And Jacqueline was saying we actually get separate rooms and everything like that. And Jacqueline and I have always shared rooms for the most part. And just this past year or a couple years, we've been getting separate rooms, right? And I thought in my head about that the other day. And I was like, I bet you anything that there's no male partnerships that share a room. They just boss up and pay for 2 rooms. You know what I mean? And here we are thinking we need to be besties, doing pillow fights or something and talking.
Which we have never done.
Yeah, which we've never done. But you know what I mean? Like, because like we see like these people on social media that they're best friend partners and they are share rooms all the time. And then, that's not actually how real high level businesses work, like real CEOs. And I felt proud of us, I guess. I was like, yeah, of course we have the money to do it. Of course we're going to have separate rooms,
We're still together till like midnight, 1 o'clock talking.
Yeah.
And
right.
then Mina's like, can you walk me to my room? Can you sit with me here for a second? So like, we really should technically sleep together, but
Yeah. But, I just think that one thing we've been learning too, is that now that we're at a higher level is we've never been here before. We don't know how to act in a certain way. And we don't know how to model for other people. And it takes us a minute to be like, hey, we should have separate rooms. Like, duh, I don't know. I just felt like really proud of the fact that we were like, okay, of course we're going to have separate rooms. We've always thought we needed to share a room. It's so practical, like mom sense. Let's all share a room. We're doing a vacation, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. It's just like growing into all of it has been really exciting.
Leveling up everything.
Yeah.
Traffic, funnels, launches, sleeping arrangements.
Yeah. Right. like living your life,
Yeah. I mean, I think, I've been privileged enough to be close to, your dynamic, and probably haven't been part of all the conversations, aware of everything, but I think you both make each other better. in so many really cool ways. And I think for everybody listening, as we wrap up, just thinking about like growing from 7 to multi-7 or multi-7 to multi-multi-7, it's just not about the tactics. Like some of it's about tactics, a lot of it is strategy, a lot of what we talk about when we're together in making sure that what you're doing is like the highest best use of you and your resources, and that it's leveraged as possible and it gives you as much spaciousness as possible. But it's also about who you get to become on the journey. I think a lot of people, I think it's good to hear. It's good for them to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing the inside of the growth of your company, and just having fun together. I really appreciate it. And I just appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
All right.